morning, beautiful children of God. I appreciate you again. This service that you had yesterday for Joyce Carpenter, all of you who cooked and made coffee, who cleaned the church before and afterwards, all of the work that you did to show love to the Carpenter family and help the service yesterday go well. Thank you, thank you, thank you all. I appreciate the kind of church we are and how we have been. There are a few tokens of Joyce Carpenter's service that are left on the little back table there. If you want one, has a little heart, it has a picture of her and a penny. These were keepsakes that were given out to the family, and there's a few of them left if you would like one. Use it if you want to pray for the Carpenter family, or if you would just like one to remember Joyce. In the way of other announcements, remember we do our passing of the peace before the service, so I hope you're all at peace, and I hope that you've loved each other. Here comes our first announcement.
So yesterday we moved some of the metal chairs to the dining room to facilitate the luncheon in the dining room, and they haven't been moved back. Some of the, they're right there to put them on, but we just need some help at some point to put those chairs back. And then also, there's a big TV that's broken that needs to be recycled to Best Buy, and I'll pay for the fee, but someone that's strong enough to lift it and get it over there. It's on the floor of the music room. So I'm just listing some things that we need help with. And also at the council meeting, Maggie had said that they could use a dehumidifier in the youth room, and I thought we could use ours, but we decided not. And so if you have a dehumidifier that they could use, please talk to her. And then my music announcement is that in 2 weeks on August 6th, the choir will meet in the music room to look at the music and the schedule for this fall's rehearsals and singing. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. So please help Sarah with these three important things, little things to get done, but important to get done. Are there others? Seeing none. Oh, yes, Barb.
Just wanted to remind everybody that this Saturday coming up at Mott Library on Door Street, the Repair Cafe will be there from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. to do repairs. And so if you need anything fixed or just want to come and visit and have a cookie and coffee, or if you just want to come and see what's happening, please come.
I'm looking for more stuff to repair, but I think you fixed everything. But thank you for being there at our outdoor gathering that we had a couple Sundays ago as well. Thank you for being there, particularly for that family who brought the bicycle. I hope you were able to fix it. Thank you. We support you. We love you. Thank you.
And also I wanted everyone to know that Ed's computer broke, and we did get him a new one, and we paid for it with memorial money. So that's good news. He likes it.
So my 11-year-old computer died, and not only did Kevin fix it, but when I turned it on, it had the same screensaver up. So he had saved all of the data somehow. Magic man. And so I've been praying for this woman, Yana Bukar, for at least maybe 10 years. She's one of the Nigerian schoolgirls that was kidnapped and then rescued, but now is living her life, and I just have it in my heart to pray for her. So when I turned on the computer and Yana Bukar's picture came up, I was like, oh, thank you, Kevin Wade, thank you. So, wonderful. Are there others? Okay, let's open our hearts to God and to each other, and let's worship.
Glory and honor. Psalms. Teach me your way, O Lord, and I will walk in your truth. Give me an undivided heart, that I may fear your name. I will praise you, O Lord my God, with all my heart. I will glorify your name forever. Please join me in invocation. Amazing God of love, grace us with your presence. We ask for faith and trust enough to strengthen our hearts. You know all so well. Amen. Please stand if you're able for our first hymn. I sing the Almighty Power of God.
Pointed out to me yesterday that people didn't always use the microphone well, and so some people spoke and weren't well heard. So it's just a regular reminder that if you do come up to speak, you got to rock star it. You got to get the microphone right up to your lips so that you can hear. Can you all hear me? Okay. Sometimes people speak, and because we're polite and we don't want to interrupt, and people will sometimes signal to me. So please, when you do come up to speak, use the microphone. Say hi, use the microphone.
Hi.
Ah, there you go.
Hey. Hello.
There you go. Got it. We have to talk right into the microphone. Okay, so here we go. Today I have a red bell pepper and a super Sioux tomato. These are seeds, right? Wow. In the story today from Jesus, he says that, oh, the kingdom of God is like somebody that went out and planted something, and then when they got up the next morning to discover somebody else had planted over their field too. And then they said, let's tear out all the stuff we didn't plant. And he said, well, if you do that, you'll hurt the stuff we did plant. So just let them grow together, and then we'll take care of it when it's time to harvest. So that's the story. So what I want to see is, let's see if we can open these up and see if the seeds look the same or different, if we can tell. And I don't know what the answer is going to be. Can we open these? I wonder. Will it tear? Can you see? Can you tear it open? Or do I need scissors? And I might need scissors. All right. Yeah, it won't tear from the top either. Are there scissors in the house? Is there a knife in the house? Come. Oh, Sean is prepared with his knife. All right, Sean has the knife. He's going to cut it open for us. I used to carry a knife till I started to volunteer at schools, and then they said there was like no knives at all. So thank you, Sean. You are prepared. Bless you. Now, what I want you to do is, let me get this piece of paper here. I want you to pour them out. Put that one here. Okay. Now, which one do you have, the tomato or the pepper? Tomato. Now let's pour the pepper seeds out. Oh, that's the tomato. You have the pepper. You have the tomato. Okay, let's look at them. Oh my goodness. All right. So, which one's bigger? That one. Which one is that? That's the pepper. And can you tell by the seed if it's a red pepper or a green pepper? No, we don't know. But we know these are red peppers and these are red tomatoes. Now, if I mix them together, I think we can tell. We can see the little ones are the tomatoes and the bigger ones are the peppers. But the idea of the two seeds when they start to grow, if their leaves look the same, once they grow, maybe in the beginning, the very beginning, you couldn't tell what was what. But in the end, if you know the peppers are the peppers and the tomatoes are the tomatoes, right? So, do any of you garden? Any in your family? No, your moms and dads, aunts and uncles and grandmothers and grandpas? Okay, no? All right. Well, you have a little garden in your backyard? Okay. Well, I garden like I swim. I can, but I choose not to. All right, so off to Sunday school class, and what I want you to remember is sometimes we just have to let things grow up together, and then we see who they are. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Walk with Serena if you wish. And it's now time for our joys and concerns. Give me a moment to get back up there.
With God's abiding presence, we are the hope of the world. Please join me for a dedication. God of hope and trust, you have filled our hands and hearts with such good things. Accept these gifts and the overflow of our
sometimes one of the best ways to sell a movie is to have the church come out against it, and everybody wants to go see it. That happened when I was young and growing up with the movie put out by Monty Python, The Life of Brian, because they said it was insulting to Jesus. But actually, Jesus is another character, is not there. But Brian is a person that people just think is the Messiah, and he's not. But he gets tangled up in many of the similar stories to Jesus, so it makes great fun of us religious people. Like how we have passed resolutions that might not matter one way or the other. So there's things that churches do. But one of the things that people will do is they will get all things wrong about interpreting parables. So in that movie, Brian is trying to escape the Romans, and he ends up in this place like Hyde Park, and it's a place in England where anybody can stand on a soapbox and just spout off whatever you want, and people gather around to hear what the crackpots are saying. And so there'll be like 3 or 4 people, and they'll be in Hyde Park, I think that's the name of the place in London, and they just do their thing. And so there was a place like that in Jerusalem, probably, where there were a number of people speaking. So Brian says, once upon a time there were 2 sons. He's starting to tell a parable. But the people ask him, what were their names? He says, their names don't matter. He goes, are they not? Well, what do you mean, a person without a name? What are their names? He says, it's just a parable. I'm just trying to make an illustration, something like that. Just, what were their names? He says, okay, they were Brian and Keith. You know, it just comes up with names. And they go, who was their father? Well, the point is they totally get lost and miss the point of what a parable is. And we could do the same thing with the parables of Jesus. We could get caught up in the details and miss the point. So I'm going to read the parable of the tares and the wheat and talk a little bit about, I'm not going to worry too much about what the word tare means. It means garnel, how that looks, how it grows with wheat, what kind of wheat it was, but just the general picture of what Jesus might have been trying to say. Because the other thing about a parable is Jesus would not necessarily explain it, but would let you think about it. And so there's another place where there's an explanation of it, but I think today I'm going to go with the original intent and say, think about it. You come up with your answer. Here we go. In that same day, oh, wrong one, this one. He put before them another parable. The kingdom of heaven may be compared to someone who sowed good seed in his field. But while everyone was asleep, an enemy came and sowed weed among the wheat, and then went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, the weeds appeared as well. And the slaves of the householder came and said to him, Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? Where then did these weeds come from? He answered, an enemy has done this. The slave said to him, then do you want us to go and gather them? But he replied, no, for in gathering the weeds, you would uproot the wheat along with them. Let both of them grow together until the harvest. And at harvest time, I will tell the reapers, collect the weeds first, bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn. So what does that mean? Let the weeds and the wheat grow together until the harvest. What does that mean to you? We often want to get through things now, and we have a hard time waiting. Sometimes things that seem like they're bad, if we wait, it turns out they aren't so bad after all. I'll give you a couple examples. Sauerkraut. When I was a little boy, you couldn't make me eat sauerkraut. Now I love sauerkraut. Spinach. Again, when I was a little boy, I stayed as far away from spinach as I could. Now I love spinach. And God have mercy, coffee. Black. Straight. I didn't start drinking that until I was like in my 30s because of a man whose father died. And he said he used to get together with his father every week and drink coffee. And then I started drinking coffee with him and other men from the church. So it could be a developmental thing. When they're little seeds, you have discernment. So you think you know what the wheat is and what the garnel or the tares are, but maybe and when they grow up you'll see. Another way to look at this is about how when we get older, things that seem bad to us become important to us. In this Scott Peck version of how we grow up, he says children are chaotic. They're selfish and they go every which way, and that's exactly as they should be, because that's what it is to be a child. But a little child might think that sitting down, being quiet, being formal, and being part of an organization are nothing like what they want. And so they would think that that's bad and always will be bad forever and ever. But they might get to another age where they want to belong in a group and they believe in authorities and they respect their parents and pastors. And then the last thing they want is to question anything. And so questioning would be the bad thing, would be the tares, if you will. But when they get older, they realize that questioning things and thinking for themselves is exactly how they want to be. But then sometimes they don't want to go into what Scott Peck would call the mystic or the communal. But in the end, the idea is some of the things that we thought we'd never want to be. I'll never be that. I saw it with a person who was driving a minivan, and it's had a quote on the back. It says, "I will never own a minivan." And it said, "me." So when they were younger, they said, "I'll never own a minivan," and there they were driving one. So times change, so the tares of wheat might be wisdom to say, just wait a little bit. You don't know enough now. In trying to tear up the weeds, you may tear up something that's good. Because right now, you might not actually know what's tare and what's wheat. Also, there's a kind of perfection that means wholeness. In the New Testament, in the Gospel of Matthew, in the Sermon on the Mount, he says, "Let your love be perfect as your heavenly Father's is perfect." And that is really a dangerous word for perfectionists and people who are obsessive and over-functioning, because it's like, I have to be perfect, and if I'm not perfect, I'm no good. But the word perfect means whole or mature. It's a different interpretation. And so this can mean that we learn to even embrace those parts of ourselves that trouble us. It's called shadow work in Jungian psychology. There's another place where it's you realize some of our habits are because we're trying to protect a part of ourselves. There's a field of psychology where it says some people have an overactive manager, make everything right. Cross all the T's, dot all the I's, make your list, count it twice, do it right. They're managers, and the idea is that they overfunction, which lets other people underfunction, but also can be very stressful. But the idea is that internally they may be trying to protect a wounded child, so they just manage everything because they're never going to be hurt again. And the other one is the fireman that goes from one exciting thing to the next and always is involved in other people's troubles. And it's not, and the fireman is a way of avoiding oneself. I had this in a couple that came to me for marriage therapy or counseling. They were not from the church, and they had a number of children, and their marriage was in trouble. And what they wanted to do was take in some more children and foster parenting when their own marriage was already in trouble. And I thought, oh Lord, what they're doing is they're trying to avoid their troubles by taking more. It's like you have a flooded basement, so you set your house on fire. So they say, well, the basement's nothing now. So it's the fireman. It's going from one exciting thing to the next. But again, it could be protecting a part of yourself that says, I don't want that part, because that wounded part of me to be seen again. So the way to deal with it is you look at your manager and say, how are you trying to help me, manager? How are you trying to help me, fireman? And you see them not as entirely a bad thing, but you see that they are a part of your own defense mechanism. So the tares and the wheat, again, it might be that the thing you thought was whole place. All right. The way Ken Wilber says to do this is you take your bad things and you think about a third person, it does this, I don't know why I do it. And then you do the second person, you talk to it like it's a you. Say, who are you? What are you doing? What are you up to? Why should I listen to you? And then the third one is I, where you think, this is who I am. This is a part of me. And so it's a way of bringing wholeness in. So it could be that when Jesus is talking about the tares and the wheat, he could be talking about sauerkraut or growing up or psychology, and that we do well to wait and integrate ourselves, and it takes time. Could be. And some things ultimately do get burned. Some things ultimately do get left behind. It could be that Jesus is being philosophical. You know, you have to take the bad with the good. You can't have the sunshine without the rain. You can't have age without illness. You can't have sports without injury. You can't have picnics without bees. It's just how it is. So if you get rid of the bees, you get rid of the injury, you get rid of the illness, you get rid of the rain, you can't just have, they come in pairs. You just can't separate them. So learn to live with them. It could be Jesus is saying something like that. And that's good wisdom. A good wisdom in that would be in a marriage or a relationship, that your partner isn't perfect and you're not perfect, but you're going to make it work. You've chosen and you are on it. You have to take the whole person as they are, and no person is entirely good. And if my wife was entirely good, she'd be too good for me, right? So there you go. Then it could be that it is adversarial. And this is the challenge with the scriptures, is that the more you know, you can find another scripture that says almost the opposite thing. Because here Jesus is saying, wait. Tares and wheat together, you'll hurt the wheat, be patient and wait. But there's a place in the Sermon on the Mount where Jesus says, if your eye causes you to sin, tear it out. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. If your foot causes you to sin. And so he's like saying, no, you've got to get straight with it. You've got to decide, in or out. You can't let these things that are harming you and harming others keep on doing it. You've got to cut it out. It's better to enter heaven without a hand or an eye than it is to go to the garbage heap, or where you've ruined your life. And so this is with your eye and your hand still connected. So what do we do with this scripture? We have the parable of the tares and the wheat, and we have the stories of Jesus with the eye and the hand and the foot. And so it takes discernment on our part. We have to look at things clearly and choose wisely. One of the dangers in this particular verse is that it would be made into an adversarial thing. And I'm going to say a few things like, have you ever heard anything like this? There's nothing wrong with this, you can say country, church, bowling club, whatever. You could say, nothing wrong with this country that a couple of funerals won't fix. Ever think of that? Like, we just have a final solution and get rid of that person or those people, then we'd be all right. That's the danger of the trying to tear the tares up and hurt the wheat. We think we're doing the right thing, but we could be doing a horrible thing. There was horrible slander and propaganda passed against Jewish people, and throughout modern history particularly, but like Ford was a big guy Ford from up in Detroit, on the protocols of the Elders of Zion, this idea that Jewish people were secretly running the world, and all the things that were bad with Jewish people, and it was false, it was inflammatory, it was propaganda, and in Germany we know it led to the Holocaust. It was an awful, awful thing. So the idea that these people should be put to death is a dangerous, dangerous thing, and a misinterpretation of the eye and the hand and the foot, where it's like, this is a cancer and it must be removed, even if it takes some killing. That's a dangerous place, and I hope our country never goes there. But it could be that both of these things have to do with union with God and the mystical life. So a little bit about that. I believe that salvation ultimately is God, together with God and together with us, with each other, because there's nothing higher than that or wider than that. So ultimately, your salvation has to do with God. And ultimately, your salvation has to do with each other. So the tares and the wheat here is that you integrate and integrate and integrate, get closer and closer to God and closer to each other as time goes on. And then, when the harvest comes, you finally get to see that which is going to be left behind and that which is going to remain. But it's a process of waiting with God. And I've been working on this for a few years, and I'm not a saint yet. But all of us, I believe, are on a journey where we have in us tares and wheat, good and bad. And our task is to come before God again and again and again, and let them grow. And in time, God will separate. God will separate the wheat from the chaff, and the wheat will remain. So that's the parable where I haven't given you one clean answer, which is probably the way Jesus intended it. Because the way this is supposed to work, as I understand parables, is they are like friends that walk with you along the way. And so next week and next month, when something bad happens, maybe it will come to your mind. Tares and wheat together. I think this is a bad thing, but I'm going to wait a little while. Maybe I won't foolishly speak right now too soon, but I'll wait some more and see. And that would be wise. And so this hopefully will help you in situations in some way or other, that this teaching of Jesus can be a little voice in you that you can remember and will give you wisdom and a moment when you have to make some kind of discernment. And this one will work when the best discernment is wait and see. Because sometimes that's the right thing to do. It's not always the right thing to do. So it takes wisdom. But hear the word of Jesus, that sometimes the right thing to do is just wait and see. God will bring all things out in the end.
It only takes a spark.
God is always here and yet is not yet completely done with us. And so we are both participants in the here and now and waiting for the consummation of all things. Let's read together the benediction. Jesus came to Galilee, preaching the good news of God and saying, the time is fulfilled, and the realm of God is at hand. Repent and believe in the good news.
And all God's people say, Amen.
No, downstairs. What am I supposed to do?
We need chairs to be put on the cart.
On the cart.
It's all down there.
It's all down there ready to put on the cart. What else?
And there's a busted TV we have here.
Okay. Other than that,
We're good.
done.
How are ya?
Okay.